Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Smith. Wow, it's time for another your favorite show, the Open Mic Show. And I am so glad you are listening, all one of you. I hope all the dads out there had a great time last Sunday. We took the Sunday off for Father's Day. You know, I got Charles Buell and Dusty Jamison here with me today, and we're talking about this topic that was, you know, we kind of was late in the week in the group, and someone posted a topic that was about client refunds, and we're naming it, "My Client Wants a Refund. Now What?" So, I put some thoughts together, guys, and we can, kind of do that if you want to do it. I'll just kind of lead it along, and my thoughts are kind of starting like this. First of all, it's not the end of the world. I mean, if you have to send it back, if you're in business long enough, sooner or later, you're going to be confronted with this situation. It doesn't matter. Don't feel bad for yourself and bad for your company. It's just the way business is. You're going to have it sooner or later. You're going to be hit by it, no matter how good you are, no matter what you do. I think it's just a thing of life. But more so, I want to talk about what's most important as it relates to this topic. So you think about the refund, but don't let that fog the most important thing. And what I think is priority number one should be to save the relationship with your client, whatever the situation is. So, under that kind of umbrella, if you're talking about saving the relationship, the first thing you want to ask yourself, is this the first time you've considered refunding a fee? Because if it is, you probably need to take a deep breath and kind of look inward. Because if you have not already prepared your company or prepared yourself for refunding it, don't be surprised. You might want to state a refund policy in your contract. I think it would be easier if you had something in writing, or if I know Charles and I had talked about this before the show, if you're kind of preparing your client for the fact that there's nothing perfect, and for them not to get upset if they find things after they move in, if you're not broaching that with them, you're probably more likely going to be hit by, "Hey, I want my money back. You missed something." So that would be the other thing that, to keep in mind, save the relationship with the client. What do you think, guys?
Well, I'm concerned about the notion of putting something specific in the contract, only because it's opening the door that they might not even think is possible. If it's not.
So what if you put something in the contract that said it was not possible? That you said you don't get a refund. This is a service. I provided you the service. Here's where my thinking is on that, Charles.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, if you're going to say you're not going to get one, I could buy that.
Right. So if you said, "Hey, here's my thinking," and it's built around this idea that if someone finds something wrong, they say, "I want a refund," and how do you take back all of the additional elements of the inspection that they use to advance their position?
Yeah.
So you can't take back. You're going to give the money back. Then how do you set up the next statement, the other half of that, which is, okay, I want all of that stuff I told you outside of what you say I missed. I want that back.
I know. It's kind of silly when you think about it, because let's say they made $50,000 because of what you saved them, and now and negotiated the deal on that, and now they want your feedback as well. I don't get that. That's just weird.
Dusty, how do you handle it? Yes, no, depends.
Yeah, it kind of depends, but is it worth the headache? Is it worth the headache of trying to? I don't know. It doesn't happen very often. I've had instances where somebody's unhappy about something, and sometimes a simple. Actually, the most recent thing I just had, a client called, and his mother purchased a condo. He's never been to the condo. I did the inspection. It was vacant. She moved in 2 months later. She had spent about $500 repairing a couple of simple leaks under a sink, but a plumber had charged her a pretty good little bit to come fix a couple of leaks. So he emailed me and just kind of a pointed question like, what's your answer to this? Why she had to spend $500? I was able to pull up 4 or 5 pictures. I take photos of the sink running and then photos of the cabinets underneath while the sink's running. I sent those over to him, said, here's exactly what we had during the inspection. And that one went away really quick. If I don't have those photos, then he's going to be asking me what's my response to it. And I have no proof that it wasn't leaking. And in that instance, I would probably just say, yeah, here's your money back. Because that's probably what he would be looking for.
So here's what I've heard so far. Here's what I've heard so far. You reacted by going over to the client's place. You went back to the job.
No.
Right? You didn't go back to the job. You called them and said, hey, here's the pictorial evidence.
Yep. Email. It all happened through email.
Did when they sent you something email, did you have an auto response to them? In other words, did you have a pre-formatted email that will allow you to not be angry and to be able to rebut the initial the initial outreach for the client? Because I think that's where a lot of guys might tend to start in that spiral downward. Is they're insulted, they respond angrily in the first or second email, or whether it's a text or whatever it is. You know, my thing is, don't react when you're mad. By all means, be prompt, but find out why they feel like they need a refund, right?
Right. So I just know, I think that's part of the benefit of experience, and that's why people continue to hire us is we're not going to react just haphazardly and jump to the conclusion. Exactly.
So that means that more than likely in our profession, because of what we do, more than likely we're going to wind up having to go out there, put our hands on it and say, hey, let me lift this up. What are you talking about? And then, help them understand, most disgruntled clients just want to be heard. Really.
Yeah, and it was really quick. He emailed me, and within 10 minutes, I keep all of my photos on Google Drive. So within 10 minutes, I had looked up the job, pulled those pictures over into the response on his email, typed in up a quick response, and just said, hey, here's exactly what I saw. There wasn't anything leaking. You did have a sink that was slow to drain. That's noted in your report in section such and such. He emailed me back within 5 minutes after that and said, thank you for the quick response. I'll do some research on it. And I haven't heard from him since, and that's been about 3 or 4 weeks. So
it just kind of died down. Yeah.
It goes away.
So what you don't want to do is give them the feeling that they're being ignored or disrespected.
You hit on something in your opening that hit home for me is you want to jump right on it. I had a client call me one time that they had their hydronic wall heater was leaking, and the way they noticed it was the baseboard had swelled enough to swell the door jamb so that it caused the door wouldn't open, and that's how they first noticed it. And and of course, all my pictures showed the area was dry, and when I said, "Well, I'll be right over." That was my response. So, because I'm curious, I want to see what's happening, what's going on, and that's the best way to verify that it's something that I should have caught, should have noticed, or whatever. And they weren't upset with me or anything. They wanted to know if I knew a good plumber to come and fix it. So, but at any rate, I said, I want to see what's going on. I went over and looked at it, and sure enough, there was a small leak. That obviously wasn't there at the time of inspection, but I think that's the key. Having something ready-made that you send out as an email, that would imply that this thing happens a lot more regularly. I've had one instance where I paid money back, and it was because I missed a gutter that was hanging off the side of the house, and I just missed it, but it was sure showing in the cover photo.
So for
what are you going to do with that?
So for a larger firm, Charles, if you're looking at it from a multi-inspector firm where you have 6 or 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever, Ruben has been awarded an award for, which I want to, plug him real quick. He won an award by the Chamber of Commerce in the Twin Cities for having a company that was most enjoyable to work with.
Awesome.
Way to go, Ruben. When you do have someone that calls, they have to respond in some way. And the idea of a pre-formatted something is to get something right away to them that you're concerned that there's a problem, and that someone in our staff will get back to you promptly and that kind of thing. So that might be one of the tips to do that. Again, remember, the priority number one is save the relationship with the client.
Well, in both of my instances that I discussed, I answered the phone, so it was like
yes, which is the other way, which is the other half of what Charles and I always talk about, to ourselves, and I guess we wind up patting ourselves on the back for it. I don't know if it's looked as a back patting session or if it's just a reality. If you call my company, I answer the phone, and if there's an inspection, I do the inspection. So
it's a different model.
It's just a different business model. That's right. It's just simply different business model. So there may be the response to that when we're talking broadly here on this topic. So the response might need to be a little bit broader. So, and I think if you use their insight as a tool to change your perspective, that could also help you grow as a business owner. Because your client, again, we're trying to save the relationship with the client. And if you look at it, you change your perspective on a call for a refund as a gift to you to do a better job so that you try not to have that happen. Unhappy customers can be a gold mine for how you can improve, your inspection service.
On the other hand, if I'm not wrong, I'm not paying. I'm flat out.
That has merit. I think not standing your ground certainly has merit.
Because the worst thing you can do is become known as somebody that will fold in a minute's notice for no reason. And I'm just notorious for digging my heels in. A divorce to account for that.
Brian says that I have it in my contract that the most I'll pay back if sued. That insurance wants that in the hold harmless agreement in place, and it's more legality.
Well, I have a question about that. Let's say you screw up and you miss something, and then you have your client sign something saying, okay, here's your money back. This is it. We're done. And they can't come back to you later for something that.
Yeah, that's deep into the weeds of legal advice. And I hope that, and I forgot to mention it, and Charles and I talked about it in the pre-show, that we should put a disclaimer in here. What you hear today on this show is not legal advice. Please do not take it that way. And, we're not sitting on this panel talking to you guys on this podcast as if this was legal advice. This is a bunch of guys getting together and talking about what is working in our business.
That's right.
So, I've already talked about don't communicate, with your client when you're angry. It's paramount that you don't communicate when you're all worked up. That's not going to work well for either of you. You're going to wind up, enemies, and you don't want that. It's much cheaper to hang on to a client than to go out and try to spend money on capturing another one. It's much cheaper to sell to a previous client. And the only way to keep them previous, even though you've refunded their money, or a portion of it. So talk about that. Does the refund have to be 100%?
Yeah,
I know it depends on the situation, but some of the negotiation when you're talking to your client, I mean, if this guy came in and he posted something, hey, client call wants me to refund my money. Now what? Well, don't refund it all. Maybe there's some places in there that you could negotiate that.
Why would a client ever agree to signing off on it? I don't get why any consumer would do that. Say, okay, I'm happy with your $350. We're good, and I don't care if my dog gets killed because of it's electrocuted from something you missed later.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't logical to me. Am I missing something?
The last time I remember refunding any money, it was a glass cooktop, electric cooktop in a kitchen, and there was a crack in it. It was basically right down the center. Is a black cooktop. There's a crack in it. I didn't see it, and I pulled out my pictures, and actually there's a little chunk that was off of the corner where the crack started, and looked at the pictures. Everybody was cordial. There was nobody that was mad, but there sure was. There was a chunk off of it. I looked at the pictures, and once I got the right angle on the pictures, I could see the crack. I think it was going to be like a $500 repair, something like that. Of course, my inspection was about $400, and the client, he just said, I wish I would have known about this. So I ended up giving him his money back, and he scheduled another inspection within a few months later. He was fine. I mean, everybody was happy. It was very equivalent to the purchase of that new cooktop. So it was an easy, just give him his money back. I got more business off of it later. He still refers me to other people too. So it was
my client with the gutter said, I'll split it with you. So I paid him $120. I mean, it was good.
So there's two examples of negotiating the fee out in some form of fashion. You're trying to settle it, and you're settling it on your own rather than going through arbitration or litigation or some other means to settle the dispute.
But I would never expect that fee to count be okay for me missing something else and discovers later. I don't.
Mm-hmm. I have a little bit of I'm a little bit I guess confused might be a good term. Maybe I don't understand it so well. But you're hiring me for my opinion. And if I give you my opinion, I'm going to do darn well and give you every bit of what I know. And if I don't know it all, I just simply don't know it all. And if I don't see it all, I don't see it all. And I would challenge anybody to think that someone would be able to come to that project and see everything. So under that umbrella, at the very beginning, couldn't you say as part of your pitch, hey, dude, you will find something when you move in. I am not perfect. You're not either. And that will go a long way to help put the fire out and become somewhat of a return policy. And just say, I'm not big on returning money for the pure fact that I'm not perfect. And this is not a perfect world.
Right. Yeah, and I think most clients understand that, and you should have that built into your spiel in some form, and so they get the sense that.
Right. Yeah. So, without having the poster on to talk about the thread that brought this topic up, I'd be curious to know if at the pre-inspection pitch at the driveway when you begin your inspection, and when you talk about what you're going to do that for the money that you're going to receive, do you broach, hey, I'm not going to get it all, so be prepared?
You're walking a fine line though, because use my instance as an example. Should I have not seen that cooktop? Does that broken cooktop fall under that umbrella of I'm not going to see everything? Well, why didn't you see that? That's a cooktop. It's cracked. It's an easy one.
I don't know. The lighting matters a lot. I mean, I won't talk about the dates I've brought home at the bar late at night.
Well,
but I'm telling you, lighting matters.
Here's an example I had. I had a house where there was a towel on the countertop right next to the sink. And he thinks about a towel next to the sink, but I touched it and noticed it was wet. And that's when I noticed that the upstairs bathtub was leaking through the ceiling onto that towel in the kitchen. And it's the kind of thing you could have easily missed if you didn't happen to touch the towel, or because the towel was there. After that, I started adding things that towels in place can hide things.
Right. So if you have a situation where you are asked for a refund, wouldn't it be a good idea for the explanation of the refund to be sent to you in writing?
All of this stuff is it's just funny because my mindset is all of it's got a background of making sure the customer's happy, for the sake of online presence and where all the leads for business come from, and the reputation. I guess that's what I'm trying to say is reputation. Reputation is playing a huge factor in everything that I do with business. So, if there may be times where it's one of those things, it could go either way. And maybe I slant a little bit and give a little bit more to a client strictly for reputation's sake and salvage that reputation. So, everything that I'm saying kind of has that shaded on the background of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'd add to that it's my business model that the client be with me as much as possible, the inspection if possible, and that period of time they get to see that I am in fact taking care of them. So part of the conversation involves what I won't find and will find, and so I think that goes a long ways to mitigating them wanting their feedback later. They know I was doing my best, and so they know that they've spent the money well before they even get the report. So I think that's.
Hey, Gary, Sean's here. He's online. He's the one who made the post earlier.
Oh, good. Sean, if you could leave us a note or two in there. Did you mention that fact to your client before you started the inspection? Does any of you that are in there hanging out watching this, do you say, you're not going to get everything, dude? Know that I'm going to do the I'm going to do the best job that I can, but I won't catch it all. Do you say that? And if you don't say it, why don't you?
My typical comment is, look, I'm not going to find every little thing, but I will find the big stuff.
You'll catch the big stuff, and right. So I'd like to, it'd be good to know that, Sean. So anyway, had another note here about asking your client for details. Have your client describe it in writing that we talked about, and once it's in writing. If it gets down to that point, so if somebody's calling you up saying, hey, I want my money back, my next thing is why, what happened? I'm going to visit the job. And then if it's my fault, then but if it's something that I cannot see, like something hidden, then there's another bridge to cross. But if it gets down to it, I think it probably will be put in writing at some point.
Well, that's why you got to take thousands or hundreds of pictures, because you've got to count the countertop covered with stuff, and they move the toaster, or the staging's gone when they move in. Yeah. A big crack on the countertop. You've got pictures that show all that stuff covered.
So, in defense of the guys who send out tons of pictures, that might be it may not necessarily prevent someone from initiating the phone call to you, I want a refund, but it sure would be a great defensive measure to rebut that statement.
Here's the kitchen countertop at the time of inspection. I couldn't see it. Sorry.
My problem is I could, so I got a picture that I could. But clients, Gary, I was going to ask you guys this. Clients typically don't call, for me at least, they don't call and say, can I have my money back? It's usually, this is going wrong. Let's dig into this. That's usually the call I get. It's very, very rare where somebody calls back. I don't know that I've even had that where they say, I just want my money back. Usually it's something else, something they want to, either like with the sink where they're saying it was $500 of repairs and I had to dig into it, or it was the cooktop where he was just saying, it looks like this is cracked. Did you see it? And I had to dig in and figure out that I should have seen it.
Again, they just want to feel like you're going to continue to take care of them the way you
Exactly.
So what you're saying is that the idea that they call up and ask or demand, or at least throw the opportunity out there for getting money back, might be just to get your attention.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So Brian could have misread it in some way. There's a potential for that.
There's a potential for that. Yeah. I have to hear the conversations to know what exactly, and you can have one client call, and if they're mad right off the bat, you're trying to figure them out. How mad are they? Where's this going? And then you may have somebody else that calls and they're just as nice, like the guy with the cooktop. He was as nice as could, just like, hey, did you see this? And that's when I dug and figured out that I should have.
Well, this brings up another little twist to this. Is it's not just that you missed something; it's maybe you had it in the report, but why didn't you make a bigger deal out of it?
Yeah, I don't get that one.
Say that again.
I don't. Where you
in the report, but you didn't make a big enough deal out of it? What does that mean?
It didn't go to the summary.
Okay. Gotcha.
So it was something that they. Well, I wish you'd made a bigger deal of this, because right in the start of my report, it says, look, this summary is my opinion. There is things in this report that you wish were in the summary, so read the whole report.
Yeah, I've never had anyone with that, because anything that's going to be called out as an issue will be kind of summarized into all of it, whether it's big or small. Now I categorize stuff from low, medium, high, so to speak, but everything is the problem is going to be in the summary, or at least it's easy to get to. It's easy to see. And anybody who would have a problem with where something was in the report would probably say something about that in the negotiation period, as opposed to after they've moved in. That would be my take on, if somebody was wanting something moved from one section of the report to the other, it would be for negotiation's sake, as opposed to later on down the road.
I've had folks move in and they've been there 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and they've sent me a list of all of the things that they've seen, cracks in the drywall and first one thing and the other, blemishes in paint and things of that nature, and asked for a refund.
I'm not moving to Mississippi.
The brush stroke is real wide here in this topic, and I thought it would make a good topic to kind of discuss, so that we could throw out some obvious points that we might. We're not going to be able to catch all the scenarios of that in this session.
But that's a good point, Gary. There's going to be regional differences too. Rural clients and
right.
Inner city clients.
And in the group, we've had some conversations about this topic, and it will not fit every state. In Mississippi, you cannot simply give your inspection feedback, and that's the limit to your damages. We've got a little tort thing going on here that will not allow that. They could sue me for my house if they wanted to.
Yeah, and here under my structural pest license, there's no limit of liability either. And I frankly don't think there should be one. I took it out of my.
Well, John, somebody in the group just said, he said, we don't make a big deal because realtors overreact, that we scare the client. So
way to go, John.
Part of the balancing act that you got to do too is walking that fine line of telling the client the issue, right, but not going overboard with it.
Yeah. I don't know how much more we got here, how much more time. We don't have a lot of time left. Mr. Charles, you sum up what your thoughts on this are. You would encourage more inspectors, if possible, to get the client out there and walk through that thing with you.
Absolutely. I call it the time of bonding. You want to bond with your client. clients that you're friendly with, sort of become friends,
Right.
they're not going to sue you.
Right. They're less and less likely. Yes, less likely to take.
So,
Dusty, what your reservation or your sensitive part of that, just from talking to you, is your concern is the social application or ramifications of them dogging you on social media, and not only do you give your thing back, they go and blast it everywhere if you give them trouble. Is that?
Yeah, I mean,
Is
there's that. I don't like I'm not exactly on the same page with Charles as I don't want to bond with the client
Right. Sure.
as much. No,
Uh-huh.
I do like when clients are there, it's a little bit tougher on me. I've got a tighter schedule maybe, but no, I do like when they're there. It is nice to at least wrap up. I like to wrap up with them because you can still form a relationship in a wrap up conversation, just like you can in a full inspection. But that all being said, yeah, my concentration a lot of times is I want to make the client happy. If it's just going to be easy and just save me time, I'll go ahead and give the money back. It doesn't happen often, but
somebody on that thread during the week was saying had an outrageously high number of times they indicated they give the
New Jersey. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
money back to the client, and honestly, that number just I would seriously wonder what the heck was I doing wrong or my guys were doing wrong that created that number of times where I had to give the money back to the client. I don't know.
It's you're going again to different business models. I mean, it's numbers. It's a numbers thing. When you're doing high volume, when you have a lot of inspections, there's more room for error on your part, and then there's more clientele that could potentially have error on their part. More crazy.
Yeah. So if I've done 300 inspections in a year on my own, and someone like was it Juan that came? Yeah, that had that thread earlier, and he's done 1,800.
Yeah,
he's done 5 times the number of inspections, so he's going to have 5 times the opportunity to have 5 times as many complaints.
Yeah, there's more crazies in 1,800 people than there are in 300 people. So,
so the odds are going to be greater that you're going to get and have to deal with it in some way. And those are just numbers.
I can see it. I can see that.
Yeah,
I'll stick to my business model thing.
There's
nothing wrong with it at all.
No, nothing wrong with your business model. Just keep it out there and. Yes, I'm just glad you live far away from me, so that you continue to take my business away from me. You're much smarter than I am, Charles.
You can afford to give me 1 of your 10 a week.
Dusty, appreciate you, Charles. Good to see you. For Gary Smith and our little open mic show in today's Home Inspector in the House. Talk soon.